Okay, welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting this date, 28th of August. Ms. Roy will not be, Selectman Roy will not be here tonight. She's away on vacation. So it's just the two of us. And we're being taped and filmed by Studio 58. We can be viewed at a later date. And we will start the meeting off with, as usual, the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What time is that first appointment?
First appointment's at 7:10.
So, Tom, you want to...
You want to start with the approval of the agenda and the
Yep.
minutes?
Anything you want to add or delete?
I'm good.
So we'll move on to the warrant.
Well, I'll approve the minutes first, or
Not really.
I can move them.
Would you?
I'll move. I move we, excuse me, I move we accept the minutes of the regular session of June 15th, 2018, the regular session of July 25th, 2018, and the regular session of August 20, 2018.
I'll second those. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next.
Mr. Chairman, I move to affirm approval of the following warrants. Payroll warrant number 16 for $224,310.07. Vendor warrant number 17 for $81,347.62. And withholding warrant number 18 for $75,947.11.
I'll second those. All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the following warrant. Vendor warrant number 19 for $99,811.05.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve payment of the Selectmen's bills dated August 28th, 2018, as soon as I find them. Harry B. Harding and Son for $1,448.75 for the special town meeting warrant. National Grid for $1,430.01. National Grid for $77.16. And that's it.
I'll second those. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Charlie?
Police chief contract, we have 2 copies to sign. This is just a delay getting signatures from the chief. And just,
We've already voted on these.
yes.
Okay.
After that, we'll have a recycling grant agreement. This is for $9,000. I talked to Susan Johnson, and she said that she and the highway surveyor are working on plans on how best to use this grant. This is basically on a point system of the town receives money based on the population in Halifax and the various programs it runs, and then receives money on that basis.
Doesn't have anything, I mean, doesn't have anything on how many people are recycling?
No, it's simply the size of the community. So for instance, at 7,500, you get a certain amount of money versus at 9,500 people. It's not how many people are actually recycling.
Okay.
So in this case, the chair could sign on behalf of the board, so I'm recommending that the board vote to authorize Troy to sign.
So moved?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So bottom line.
Yes. MBTA parking, just that the MBTA had sent out a note saying it's revising its fees again at parking lots based on usage. In Halifax, it's going to now be $2 per day for all 7 days, including the weekends, and then $35 per month. Up in Hanson, it's going to be $4 on weekdays and $2 on weekends, and $70 per month. What I'd like to do is actually send a note to the T to recommend that they just skip the fee on weekends. If the idea is to increase ridership, and for instance, they ran that $10 promotion during the summer, and if I suspect, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm willing to bet that it's far less than even half the spaces are using Halifax Park, why even bother having an attendant go out there, not to collect money, they have to go check the license plates and things like that, make
Right.
sure people pay. Why bother with that, not charge money and get more people to ride the T? That's okay with the
Because
board.
the T's in deep trouble.
Actually, it's not as much as it was, in fact.
Right, it's actually in better shape. But it still doesn't run a whole lot of trains on Saturday,
Right.
which
No.
becomes problematic.
Mhm.
Well, hey, I would move that we send a letter, just to let them know we are concerned. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
We've got a whole bunch, there's a couple places, but I'm gonna group these together, I think. We've got a bunch of talent bank forms that have been sent out. Kimberly King has sent one in for a number of boards and commissions, and then after I did my notes tonight, Andrea McDougall and also Claudia Noble Connor both indicated interest in Wage and Personnel Board. I've sent those to the Wage and Personnel Board. We may not hear from them until the 13th because that's when their next meeting is, but maybe on the 25th of September, we might be doing interviews for Wage and Personnel for some other boards and commissions at that point. Fire contract, this is a revised fire contract based on the vote at town meeting back last Monday, which was the increase in his pay. This, again, just needs the two signatures of the board, but the board should vote in this case to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The violation of the zoning bylaws that the board had been notified by the building inspector a few weeks ago at 75 Hayward Street's been resolved. There are no current issues or building issues or health issues there. Also another talent bank form, this was from Samantha Spencer. She's not a Halifax resident, she was an intern over working with Wage and Personnel, but she had checked off a few of the boxes, and again, I'm getting that out to the boards and commissions. There are some committees that she wouldn't be able to serve on, but something like holidays in
She
Halifax.
did an excellent job, who we talking about is a college student that came over and worked as an intern, and she did an excellent job.
Yeah, very dedicated.
I did get a note, we advertised for the receptionist, transportation coordinator over at the Council on Aging, and it's not particular to this position, but someone had recommended months ago that we start doing exit interviews with employees. Just, in this case, I know the person has found a job more compatible with their skill set. She's a drafter and was able to get a drafting job again, so doing something that she really wants to be doing. But it'd be good to touch base with people leaving, find out, the reasons for leaving. I'm hoping they're.
It's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
It's 7:10 at this point.
But if the board would authorize me to start that process.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's 7:10 and we have Mr. DiMaggio.
It's a pleasure to be here this evening to hear my case. It revolves around the safety on West Monpont Pond. East Monpont, I'm sorry. Just as a matter of bio, I live in Hingham. I've had a summer cottage on Paradise Lane for 44 years. My kids grew up here in the summertime. What brings me to Halifax, James W.H. Baker was my mentor, Guy Baker. I knew very well about the history of Halifax, etc. So we're very comfortable in town. I'm also I retired as a captain in the U.S. Navy, so I'm fairly comfortable and knowledgeable about being around the water. Now, I had an incident at the beginning of the month where I was out in my whaler with my wife, going north on East Monpont Lake and then coming back down. And I hit an obstruction, was trolling speed, and the boat was right out of the water, and my wife almost went out overboard. Which could have been a disaster. Now, are you familiar with the topography of the north end of East Monpont? It's loaded with glacial
stones.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And where they are is a good question. I think they do move vertically, horizontally, and you never know where they're going to show up. Well, I found one. I've been going up and down that pond for 44 years, and so have my children, etc. It was quite an experience. I lost a prop, that's no big deal, but I didn't want to lose a wife.
Right.
That's the important thing. So I've spoken to the state, I've spoken to the town, and I have spoken to the watershed authority, and no one assumes any responsibility, and I can somewhat understand that. The thing that bothers me is it is not posted at all. There's not a sign, unlike Westmont Quonset, which is Department of Recreation is well posted. I don't expect the Coast Guard to come in with a sonar team, a buoy team, and lay out buoys. All that's impractical. But I think in justice to the safety of the pond, it should be at least a notice at the landing that boating and swimming is at your own risk. And I say this because if something happens, everyone's going to say it's the other guy's fault. You know, we have enough of that going on in the country right now. At least it gives the town some footing to say, listen, we posted this thing. We know there are obstacles in the water, the swimming problems, etc. And I think it would be very important that something should be done. But buoys would be the answer. It's impractical, etc. I have a swimming background. I spend 3 days a week in the water myself. I teach a program at the Hanover Y, getting people with disabilities back in the water. So I'm fairly water savvy. Okay, so what I'm asking you is, do you think it would be prudent to post that in the town's favor, that we are not responsible for anything that will happen out there? Because when it does happen, you'll find out whether you're responsible or not.
Yeah.
And the state, you point to the state will point to you and say, gee, I didn't know anything about it. I think it's a heads up on this thing. So I don't know how you feel about that.
It sounds like a reasonable request. I'm just wondering about the practical nature of it. I mean, we have that one spot on Route 36. That's the town's landing. Is that correct, Charlie? I mean, we could certainly post that, assuming the state doesn't have
That
any
would be
objection to
very
that.
important, because that's the point of entry
Right.
of people coming from out of town. Now, they're
Well,
not
actually,
allowed-
no, it isn't for out of town. It's a town.
It's a
boat.
town.
Right, they're not, right, they're not,
Right.
out of towns cannot park in the lot there. Many
Right.
times I've had to identify myself,
Right.
putting my boat in and out. But I think it would be very important to put a notice up there, in your responsibility is taken care of. Listen, we're not responsible for, obstacles in the water. You're boating and swimming at your own risk,
Right.
period. And God forbid something should happen where someone is seriously injured, or God forbid killed out there, there'll be a lot of pointing, and we live in a very litigious society. I think we'd be in trouble. So that's my suggestion.
In the spirit of now having the sense of being put on notice, I think it makes a more of an argument to, in fact, put some notification on there, the exact verbiage to be determined, but I don't think that's an unreasonable suggestion. I think
I agree. I mean, and coming from a person with the expertise that Mr. DiMaggio has, I put a lot of credibility into it.
Yeah.
Now, I guess my next question would be, is the lake low this time of year, lower than it normally would
Actually,
be?
it's not low,
No.
judging by my pier and all. When it does get a little lower on the north end of East Quonset, you can see the heads of some of these boulders. But where I was coming up, I was coming right up the middle. In fact, I had just said to my wife, the seagull sitting on, are you familiar with that area?
Yeah, I am.
Sitting on that rock down there, etc. And it wasn't a half a minute later, we were airborne. And I'm telling you, I was going like trolling speed, and that whale, because the planes went
Is that 17
down.
foot, 17-foot Montauk?
No, this is, no, it's just a 16-footer. And,
well, the Montauk.
and she was almost thrown out. I mean,
Well, I'm sorry to hear
we
that.
planed right up over the top of that thing, and it wasn't, you could not see it unless you hit it. Now, there are a lot of jet skiers out there, and people in boats that are much too large for that pond, etc. You could have a serious thing happen, and it may or may not happen. But I think the town has to be prepared in the event that something does happen, that they were at least forewarned. You have some footing.
And that's without the planes landing there anymore. I don't see too much of that anymore.
The Cranberry Airport's had some bad days
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And the last time, two of them,
So
I
that,
guess.
less than a week.
That's right, yeah.
Well, even the pond was technically an airport for the longest time.
Well, we'll take your suggestion under advisement. I think it's a realistic
Yeah,
idea to do. We'll talk to our boards and see what we can do.
I
come up with
greatly
something.
appreciate that. I think it's in the town's interest.
I appreciate you bringing it to us.
Well, I appreciate being here and talking to Charlie. over
And I'm
the phone.
a little intimidated. I notice you have a bodyguard with you, so
Make sure he leaves.
Yeah. I didn't see any cuffs on it.
I'm his son.
I figured as
Did
much.
you have to say something?
I think you've covered it well. Thank you.
Yeah. Very nicely done.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm sorry we had to meet under these circumstances, but it's been a pleasure.
Well, again, it was the Lou Brent prop, that doesn't bother me. But anyone that goes up in the upper basin, as you know, it's risky.
Yeah.
And I always have my children, myself, to proceed with caution. And I know generally the area very well, and I was very surprised. And that's why I say, and they do, erratics do move. They go vertically, they go horizontally. They've been there for 10,000 years and probably 10,000 more to go, but we have to be aware of that.
I was aware of the ones over in the West Pond because I use my boat over there a lot.
Yeah, over in west. I don't know if they have the same problem in west.
Oh, yeah.
They do, okay.
Down on the Hanson line, and that generally just passing my Ponset there's some legacies out there.
Jim DiMaggio, Bob DiMaggio's son. I think the what's unique about his experience with my mom was that that area has never been known to have any
any
sort of
boulders in it.
obstacle underneath the surface. And it was out towards the middle of the pond, which is very different than I think where we traditionally know the point that comes out, and some of the boulders up on the other side. This was, right in the middle, which is a place that has been gone over, how many thousands of times.
Now, you know where the ski run is
Yeah.
there. It was well outside that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a half a minute later, we were airborne. And I said, what the heck was that? I didn't say heck, no.
Yeah.
And bang.
Well, thank you. This is a family program.
Well, thankfully, that didn't get any worse than it did.
Yeah, well, I think the town just needs a little protection. I think that's the thing I'm seeking here, that if something, God forbid, should happen, you have a legal foot to stand on.
And the voters have protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
As
yes.
well.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
Thank you
for-
very much.
For hearing us. I'd like to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but I don't.
Oh, please do.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good
Appreciate
evening.
that. Charlie, I'll shake your hand. You were very
Thanks.
helpful. Nice to meet you.
Great, thanks.
Okay, we've got a few minutes before our next appointment.
So we have letters from the Office of the District Attorney, in this case, Assistant District Attorney Alex Zane from Plymouth County. He sent letters of thanks for Patrick Sterling and Chief Averis's work. This is related to a fire that occurred over at 30 Oak Place. There was criminal activity, in a sense, associated with that, and both the chief and Sergeant Sterling helped the efforts of the DA's office in dealing with this. So I'd like to have the board send letters to both individuals with copies of the letters from Attorney Alex Zane attached.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, OPM services for the Council on Aging. The building committee had in fact agreed to work with Vertex, at least on a minimal basis, to get through the bidding process. Obviously, we've ended that, but I needed the board to formally agree to the contract. This would be for no more than $5,000. They did a little bit of work May, June, and July. I think they probably did a little bit more work in August when we actually had the bids come in and such. But it'll be not more than $5,000. I should have the bills before the board.
And this carries through to what time?
This would carry through the bidding process, and I was, town meeting, I know that John was here for town meeting, John Yumi was here for town meeting. That pretty much would end it.
Any
So
questions?
moved. No.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Greenwood Emergency Vehicles, we have an agreement with them for the purchase of a wildland firefighting vehicle or firefighting systems remount for the fire department. This was $131,946. Contract's been reviewed by council, so I'm just looking for the board signatures at this time.
That falls well within the money that was appropriated.
That's what we're, yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would move that.
You want me to move it?
That's who moved? You said.
Is there a second?
Yeah, okay, I'll second it then.
Okay.
We'll get this done.
Yeah, and,
Troy, if you want to ask for the vote.
Yes. Ask
No,
for the vote.
no, yes.
Okay, I assume that's a yes, thank you.
That is
The case on Andrews versus Halifax, the ZBA has provided the court with reasons for its decisions on this matter. Counsel for Andrews has asked for a judicial review, which was expected. There's no action needed by the board. I did inform our counsel about the matter. Back a few weeks ago, the governor signed a expansion of the cancer presumption for firefighters and police officers. I've sent a note to the state auditor's office asking whether this is a new state mandate. Up until now, certain types of cancer were presumed to be associated with police or firework. Now it's all types of cancer, in which case, obviously, our coverages differ, and we would be expending more money one way or the other under this presumption. So I've asked the auditor's office to determine whether it's a state mandate, something that would, the expenses would then have to be funded by the state rather than the cities and towns. VHB, this is to do with the stormwater compliance contract. I'm waiting to get confirmation about funding from the town, working with Sandy Nolan Town Account to make sure that we're gonna have enough money to fund this either through the stormwater account or through the Mont Ponce account. VHB's offered the town a contract for $17,400 to continue the stormwater work that GHD began, and GHD had recommended that the work be continued by Vanessa Hagan and, I think it is. As there are various state and federal requirements for reports and for projects that need to be undertaken in regards to stormwater, so all the cities and towns in the Commonwealth are going to be having to do this work. What I'd ask is the board approve the contract contingent upon funding. I'm going to, as I said, won't move forward with this until I've gotten the okay from Sandy Nolan that we can use some of the Mont Ponce money, since the stormwater management plan would be mostly associated with Mont Ponce Pond.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On the school project, we received a certificate of substantial completion, and this was sent in by Scott Bancroft of Habib and Associates, and also then the builder. I had sent a note back to everybody, both the builder and Habib and Associates, and also our owner's project manager, Vertex, to say that I really wasn't at this point comfortable with signing this off. This does not affect the temporary occupancy permit that Rob issued. That's good until September 30th. There are various stipulations involved in that, in terms of not blocking exits and such while work's going on.
I thought we discussed that at that meeting.
Right.
I thought we decided that we weren't going to do
Right, but
substantial
I'm just putting on, I guess,
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
more public notice
Okay.
that as much as the work is continuing and it's going well, I'm not comfortable at this point.
What's their ETA?
For the door work, they're hoping to be done by the end of September.
September, yeah.
I would think that the windows and the siding should be done earlier than that.
Yeah, for clarification, they're going to be doing a second shift
Right.
after
Not
school.
while school's in
Yes, that's
session.
right.
So you need an approval from?
No, I'm just bringing the board up to date about that.
Okay.
Originally, on Plymouth County Advisory Board, they came up with a date for next meeting, September 13th. They moved
Yeah,
it
they
to
have
December
us.
6th.
December 6th and then December 5th.
Okay, well, then we'll get another notice. Police chief interview questions. I did get, it just happened a couple of days ago, the ICMA had put out an article about best interview questions for police chiefs when you're doing interviews. I'm going to be contacting some of my colleagues about that also. Not that the board has to use them, but at least gives the board some ideas where to start. In connection with that, we have the Police Chief Assessment Center. The board a couple of weeks ago awarded the contract to Badge Quest. I've been in communication with them. What I need the board at this point to do is approve a job description. I think the only question that had come up was on the educational
Education
requirement.
requirements.
That I know Kim is recommending that we put in a bachelor's as a requirement, master's prefer, but it's not an absolute. Rather than, right now, the old job description, we didn't have even a bachelor's as a requirement.
Yeah, that is now in there.
That would be now in
Yeah, I
there, if the
saw
board
that.
would approve that. Or if it wants to make a change, then the board could make a change, but
I think that's a reasonable thing to have in there.
Especially since some of the officers that will be working for them will have those type of degrees and certificates. I would move that we allow for the bachelor's degree, minimum of a bachelor's degree.
I'll second that.
Any further notes? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And BadgeQuest has sent what they call a knowledge and skills list, which they use to determine what exercises are going to be conducted during the assessment center. There are 4 of them, which are the leadership, communication, problem analysis, and decision-making and principles that are already automatically incorporated.
Right.
What they would like is advice from the community about what other 4 characteristics you'd like added into the exercises. I've contacted Chief Broderick, I've given him the same information as I've given you. It's not necessary that the board come up with a decision tonight about those, but if the board could review them and get back to me, then I can get the information to BadgeQuest. The other thing is now set up a schedule. What I'd like to do is upload the ad as soon as possible, with the deadline for applications being Friday, September 21st. That would give at least 3 weeks between the posting and the deadline for submissions. And it's a little bit ambitious, but simply I think we're a little bit under the time constraint here. But that weekend, after the applications come in, if the board could review them during that weekend, we'll have them available. We'll make copies if necessary, depending on how many we've gotten. And then come back on Tuesday at the regular meeting on the 25th to make decisions as to which candidates to send to the assessment center. The assessment center can be done during a weekday, it can be done during a Saturday. We can get it set up either way. I know we've done ones, for instance, for the fire chief on Saturday. We can
On
do it.
Saturday and the weekend.
We can do it on a weekday. We just need to reserve the spaces like the Selectmen's meeting room, the Great Hall, and
They need 1 room depending on how many, or
Right.
2 rooms depending. The classes, they'd like to have them in 5s,
Right.
groups of 5s.
Right, well, and I expect that we're going to be, one of the things they very specifically said in the materials, it said is, don't bring people in as a courtesy. You bring only people in that you're fairly certain that if that's a person,
In other
then you
words, don't
ultimately-
waste their time.
Don't waste
Or
their time or
their
anybody's
time, yeah.
or our money for that matter.
Yeah.
When we've done fire chief assessment centers, I don't think we've had more than 5. 5 is fine, and I wouldn't want it be down already to 2 or 3 unless for some reason
Right.
that's the number of candidates that we got that the board thought were appropriate to bring to the assessment center. But I don't need to schedule a date right this moment, but soon for the assessment center, because obviously I need to talk to BadgeQuest. It could be, as I said, it would be during the day, whether it's Saturday or weekday, but I'm fine either way for setting it up.
Okay.
What do you need from us at this time?
Well, think about a date for me. Long enough, it has to be long enough away from the 25th so that we give these folks enough time to readjust their schedules. We wouldn't do it a couple of days after picking the candidates and such.
But we are getting jammed up because.
Right. So, I would think, it might be the first week of October, the 25th brings us around to, I think for the 1st of October maybe is a Monday, and then,
It is a Monday.
yeah, and then maybe sometime late that week or no later.
Then the first of the following week.
Yeah, then the Columbus, might be the Saturday, the Columbus Day weekend, which I believe is the 6th or sometime
That
following that.
sort of makes some sense to me, that-
Well,
because we're going to want that time between then and notice and everything else. And
you can have time to evaluate the whole.
Well, you're going to have, you'll have selected the 5 candidates, you're going to have the assessment center. As you mentioned, you need time to evaluate them after the assessment center. And then also pick a date at some point for a final round of interviews, whether it's all 5 or a subset of those. And probably that should be done either on an off Tuesday or some other night,
Yeah.
so that we're only concerned with that, because I think to do it properly, you're talking 30, 45 minutes, something like that, very minimum.
Well, they gotta be vetted too, the quarries and all that
Mhm.
stuff's gotta go through, so. Okay, well, it's 7:30.
When we talk, when we get back from the 7:30, we'll talk more about
Yeah.
that.
Okay. And we have Housing Authority filling a vacancy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Charlie. Well, my name is John McEwen. I'm the Executive Director for the Housing Authority. Earlier this evening, we convened a special meeting of the authority where we took up the same subject that we're here to discuss with the board. That is to fill a vacancy that resulted from the past election in May, where a long-standing and long-serving, long-time resident of the town, Miss Lee Mulready, who served tirelessly for decades, in this community, chose not to seek re-election. There were no papers pulled, and it's a big loss for us, not just being down one commissioner, but her service will be truly missed. Earlier this evening, the board did take up nominations for consideration and recessed with that decision. We're here to reconvene jointly with the Board of Selectmen to make that, to fill that vacancy. The board did consider and voted unanimously for the recommendation of Ms. Paula Walker. Paula is a resident of the town. She happens to live at Parsons Lane. She retired after 50 years working in mass media, locally and nationally, local papers, the Enterprise Ledger, the Boston Globe, worked also in San Francisco, Michigan, where she was participating in editorial research, news research, and advertising. At this point in her life, she's looking to give to the community in which she lives in, which provides her with much, a great life. It's a wonderful community here. And so with that, I'm here this evening with my board, Chairman Jack Mather, everybody I'm sure is familiar with, and Richard Clark. Additionally, Patricia McCarthy, a third commissioner. Miss Paula Walker is also here.
Very good.
So when did she start working, when she was 10?
What?
I know.
Well, I was gonna say, would you-
The water is good in Halifax.
Ms. Walker, if you could just...
Yeah, if you would
wanna
come
come
up
up
front,
front?
please.
Don't worry, they don't
I
bite.
noticed she has
Just
a
have a seat,
resume,
by all
her
means.
resume is flowing behind her, flowing
How are you
forward.
all?
I spoke for it.
Obviously, this is something you want to do.
Yes, I do.
Why?
Actually, I was bored. I worked all my life full-time, and I retired, and I noticed there seemed to be an opening, and I thought, oh, I wonder if. So I was curious.
Are you aware of all the responsibilities that are required if you become a member
I
of the board?
believe so. The training, and all of that doesn't faze me. I'm willing to do the work, 100%.
Well, you scared me with all
I
that
know.
background.
We just want to make sure they told you everything, that's all.
Yeah.
They didn't hold anything back, that you realize once you come on board here, you gotta do another 50 years.
Yeah, you're signing up for the duration.
It's for the duration, we don't, there's no short timers here.
I know. Sounds exciting.
Well, thank you for stepping forward. It's a position we need to fill. It sounds like you're the right person to do it.
Hopefully.
Apparently, the rest of the commissioners seem to feel the same way, and a lot of it is we have to rely on them to help us make a decision.
We're in trouble.
Well, at least with you, Dick. I'm not sure about the rest of them.
All right, well, we still have the coin we used, Dick, the last time, we can still flip it. John?
Yes, it's my understanding that the election, or the appointment would be for, until the next election.
And when is that?
And then,
May of next year.
Yeah, right.
and then it would be, they'd have to run, or should have to run, for the remainder of that term.
Correct.
And how long is the term now?
It's 5 years.
5 years.
altogether. I think it'd be 4 years
Right.
from now.
And she'd be running along with anyone else who was up for reelection that year.
That's correct.
Well, I'm sure she could write some pretty good articles.
I hope so.
Well, do you need a motion from both?
Well, from anybody from the Housing Authority, anybody from the Selectmen make a motion, anybody could make the second, and then we have to actually have an individual vote by each member to say yes. I assume people are saying yes.
Yes.
Well, I
Yes, yes, they are saying
I would move that we allow the young lady to become a member of the board of commissioners for Housing Authority. If for a term to extend to May of 2019.
I'd be happy to second that.
Thank you.
So if each member could say who they are and say yes, assuming that's what they're saying.
John?
Yes.
Yes?
Patricia McCarthy, yes.
I'm a non-voting.
Right.
He doesn't.
Just the director. Like
Troy
Charlie's
Garrett,
your
yes.
administrator.
Tom Millius, yes?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
We
Thank you very
expect
much.
great
Excellent.
things
Thank you.
from you.
From me, I know you will, hope so.
You'll get, Ms. Walker, you'll get a letter from through Pam, just telling you when to get over to the town clerk's office and get sworn in and stuff.
Really? Okay.
Thank you.
John, this is for you, this is the
No,
bylaws.
doesn't look like Lance.
Updated bylaws, okay, so we
Lance, doesn't he look like Lance?
what do you want to do, just take out the paper and then...
When he first walked in, I was Lance's brother or something.
She is. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, yep, not a problem.
Enjoy the rest of the
Take
summer.
care.
See you later.
First thing we're going to introduce you to is taking notes.
Yeah, while you guys at it, find a place for me, okay?
Okay, so we got a few minutes of 7:45. Let's see, so I guess what I could do is consult with the board in the next few days about dates for both the assessment center and the final interviews.
Yeah, we just have to pick realistic dates, that's
Right.
all. But- I mean, I like the idea of the 6th, if you think that works.
You know, maybe
September
just-
6th?
No, October 6th.
Maybe I'll check my calendar. I'm trying to make sure I don't have anything conflicting, because I know in terms of logistics, as much, obviously, as the assessment center runs itself,
Right.
it's sometimes helpful to have somebody in the building to make sure, the doors are open, lights are on, somebody goes gets
Make
lunch.
sure there's toilet tissue in the bathroom. I mean, you know.
Well, that isn't your job description. right?
Yeah, I know, other duties as necessary. I
Lunch
realize
running.
that, yes.
Yeah, just making sure.
Okay, Mayflower Municipal Health Group and Vision Plan, while the current health insurance plans have some minimal vision coverage, Mayflower is prepared to offer a 100% employee-paid extensive vision plan. At this point, I'm recommending that Halifax not offer the plan, not because of anything wrong with the plan, but right now the assistant treasurer is overburdened with the other health insurance plans that she's dealing with. What's happened over the years is that increasingly the balance between people being on the Medicare plans and on the regular plans is gone to the Medicare. It used to be 2 to 1.
Yeah,
The active
yeah.
members, it's the other way around. That requires a little more care in working with our retirees who are on Medicare than our active employees who are on the regular plans. So what I want to do is talk with the treasurer collector Pam Aducci about adjusting the hours in budget for fiscal '20. That would then allow possibly for this, but also Mayflower is likely to add what's called a high deductible plan to its menu. And if the town decides to offer that and the employees decide to participate.
That's a whole nother round
Yes.
of,
And it's a lot more work, because what you have are those health insurance accounts that people sock money away in, and how you work that and balance that off against the deductibles and such. So this isn't it'd be simply a no on a temporary basis until we get a better idea of what the treasurer collector's
what the
office can handle.
workload is, yeah.
What they can handle and what the cost is going to be to each of the employees.
Because we have scratched the surface of talking about trying to expand the role a little bit.
Department signature forms, we have a whole bunch. You've seen some of these already, I think a few weeks ago, but these are the ones simply saying who's can sign payroll and the expenses, and the board needs to sign off on those. Angels in America is a nonprofit based in Middleborough and Bridgewater. They'd like to put up gold ribbons in area communities to bring awareness for childhood cancer. The ribbons would go up at the end of August and remain until the end of September. They like to put them up on telephone poles, the town hall, and the fire and police stations. I'm not quite sure how gold ribbons automatically in people's minds connect to childhood cancer, but it's up to the board to make the decision whether they want to give them permission to go ahead and do that.
Joey, do we sign off on these?
Yeah, in this case, you're going to be filling all these three, and then for payroll, you're the person who's going to be, I think you've been the payroll person. And then I don't think you've given one person the ability to handle the expense bills. We just wait until we get to a
So I'm
selectmen's
the
meeting.
primary.
You're the primary
For
for the payroll. I think that Tom may be, or is Kim the second?
I
We
don't
haven't had to
remember.
do it, but, well, I want to have Tom do it so we can get the form filled
Because
out.
Tom's here.
You're right, because Tom's here. And then we'll get up on the 1, 2, 3 up here, each of you sign, and we'll get Kim to sign as the third signature up there. We did get well, let me go back to Angels in America. I don't know what the board wants to do about that. And I have the email if somebody wants to take a look.
Have we ever had this type of request before? I know when during the
Right. when we-
war, they had ribbons, yellow
Earlier,
ribbons
right.
around, yellow ribbons, but
Right. And then I think there were a couple occasions during the last decade and a half that we've had it at various times. It might have been something to do with the police department at one point, I remember, I think. But it's been fairly limited.
We don't own the telephone poles, so we can't specifically give permission
well,
to do that.
that was my point. You know, it's private property. Can we?
No, well, I think Tom's
We
correct.
can't tell that they can go on private property and put stuff on it,
Right.
especially if it in any way interferes with them working on those poles. As much as I think, I don't really have a problem with tying the ribbons around, but I think that's something that really ought to come from National Grid or somebody who owns the poles, whether it's okay to put ribbons around them. You know, so
Between them and National Grid or
yeah,
Verizon or whoever.
so we don't wind up putting them on into the complaint.
Well, would you be saying okay to the 3 town buildings and then tell them that if they want to do the telephone poles, they need to contact Verizon and our National Grid?
Yeah, I'm willing to do
Work
the
with
town.
that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can work with
If
that.
the board would vote and...
So
I'll
moved.
vote,
So it's the
Second.
town hall, they're okay with the other buildings, but not the poles that
Correct.
came down. Who did that? Garen and Millers?
Mills moved it.
You didn't have to say it like that, but okay.
Sorry.
James Coughlin had sent in a note to the board. Because of a personal issue, he's not able to complete his training as a PI for the Halifax Police. So the board has appointed him, I guess, earlier this year, but he wasn't able to complete the training. So we'll have a vacancy. I'm sure the chief at some point will come back to the board to fill it. Kestrel Lane, Joe Parmigiano?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Parmigiano.
Yeah, him.
We'd like to have more substantial barriers put in the junction between the 2 cul-de-sacs to prevent speeding by dirt bikes and quads. I guess basically there were rocks there at one point, and maybe some people have been moving them around so that they can go at full blast through the junction between the 2 cul-de-sacs. I had sent a note to Steve Hayward, maybe he has more substantial boulders or even Jersey barriers. And I haven't received a response, but I don't see any reason, as long as people can walk through, there's enough of a gap, but I don't see any reason for having a gap larger than that. So if the board would be okay, I'll recommend to Steve that when he's able to.
Yeah, that was blocked off at one
Yeah,
time.
yeah, well, that's why, the stones were there, the boulders
Yeah.
were there, but people, if they get enough
Yeah.
stuff together, they can
Yeah,
move boulders.
make it nice and easy to cut
Yeah,
through. and
right.
all, yeah.
Then,
Second, so Garen moved it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
everything under where it says stop signs along Circuit is from last 2 weeks ago, but then under my the no mail, but it's 7:45, so I'll get to the stuff I don't have correspondence with after we do the revocation hearing. This is a continuation for Evergreen and Twin Lakes. I'm recommending the board continue it 2 months from now, which would be October 23rd. We haven't had any problems with their payments to the treasurer collector, so they continue to reduce what they owe in taxes, which is a good thing.
All right. You need a vote on it?
Yes, and we'll do that, we'll
So
post for
moved.
7:45 on the 23rd. And we have a 7:55 in a couple of minutes. Stop signs for Laurel
Just
Street.
one question for Donnie Feather. On zoning board of appeals, who signs the paper?
You don't.
We don't fill those out.
They just, for what, because I don't think that they have, the regulatory department, through Rob handles the payroll. So there's a separate regulatory sheet that Rob signs, I think, and he designates me as the backup
Yes.
for that. The ZBA itself doesn't have any salaries, it just have
Salary,
expenses.
okay.
Okay, so Garen moved to continue, and then someone needs a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Stop signs for Laurel and Circuit Street. I talked with the highway surveyor earlier, during the last couple of weeks, he decided to not put up stop signs at that intersection. He says that they don't meet the criteria under the manual of traffic control devices for four-way intersections. I know a number of the residents are upset with that decision. I'd like to invite him, the residents there for Circuit and for Laurel, the rest of the traffic safety committee, maybe we can get someone from the state to explain if there's any possibility of getting the stop signs put up there, and if so, what we'll have to do that. I think Steve's thinking that we have to do some sort of traffic study, and in my mind, when you have a four-way
That was
intersection.
stop signs.
Yeah, well, this is why we need to have a conversation with everybody in the
Yeah, I
room.
don't think you need it for stop signs. I think it's for speeding purposes,
Well, there may be-
traffic flow control.
Yeah, there may be some circumstances, like you make a decision of which, if you're only gonna put them on one road rather than the other's a pass-through, that you make a decision which road you put in the stop signs, and that requires, but I think in this case, the residents want a four-way, and at the very least, I think you need to have a pair of stop signs up there. It's a four-way intersection without any, and no one's given any indication.
Yeah, you're right. It's not that it's heavily trafficked,
Right.
but it's definitely a spot where you could have a problem.
Right.
There's also a blind driveway at
Right.
that four-way intersection that two kids live at. That's my neighbor's house.
It's a tough spot. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
People just, there's no warning that
Right.
it's coming up, and you come down there, and if someone's flying down Circuit and you're coming down Laurel, it's an accident waiting to happen, so.
Yeah. No, that's,
so what I'm recommending,
reasonable
if the
request.
board would be okay, is invite everybody in at 8
Yeah.
o'clock on the 11th.
because it's ultimately under the purview
I
of the
don't
highway
have any
surveyor.
problem
Right.
with that.
Yeah, okay, great, I'll do that. Trailer permit, just an update, we haven't got in an application for the long-term permit for 674 Plymouth Street. So we're just gonna, we'll see how things play out. Pam had sent them a note saying that they needed to get the permit application by the end of the month. Nothing's happened with that. I haven't done anything with the Bow Street property donation, the underground storage tanks at the highway garage. I haven't checked with Rob on the building permits over at Fieldstone Farms. The next hearing on Davis Automotive for their revocation hearing is the 25th, and I still need to hear back from the highway surveyor about Cranberry Drive and the sidewalk between the two lobes of the road there. I don't know if everybody's here. Kathy? Is everybody here?
Yes,
So if the board
everybody's
wanted to, we could just move this along.
Sure.
Why? Just because it's khaki? I don't think so.
Moving along is good.
No, because it's warm in here.
Yeah, you
It's
turn the
not
air
bad.
conditioner
Just turn the AC off so people can hear
It's
each
been a
other.
lot worse in here. This is okay.
Yeah. So I'm here tonight to introduce two people. I'll mention a third, also Peter Benito and Laurie Monahan, in response to some public requests for some additional help in connection with Monpont Ponds, and there are so many ways in which people can help. This was an important role, but one that didn't require a lot of participation throughout the year, and that was being a member of the advisory board for the Central Plymouth County Water District. So we meet just a few times a year, and one important role that we play is to appoint the commissioners, the three commissioners. So Peter Benito from Halifax, he was the first to offer, and I thank him, and Laurie Monahan was also very excited. Both living near the ponds and looking forward to helping. So I'm requesting that Peter be appointed as a member of the advisory board, and Laurie, something I think we made up in Halifax, and that was an
I
alternate.
know Peter, I don't know Laurel. So why? Why do you want to be appointed to it?
I live on Silver Lake, And I've seen, some of the things that have happened in the water district. My daughter used to live on West Monpont. And that lake was in pretty bad shape, and I'd like to be involved.
Laura?
I live on East Monpont, right on the lake.
You could come up in front, don't be afraid.
What?
You could come up front.
Please. Come on down.
Okay, I live right on East Lake. So, yeah, I've been watching what happens too, and, I realize how hard it is to keep control of it. So, I very much like to be a part of it. So, thank you very much.
Of course, you're welcome to attend any and all of the meetings, even if you're not on the board, because we talk about, some of the aspects of what's going on. So if you make a meeting, it's a way to be informed.
Okay.
All right, we'll stay in touch.
All right.
So you're both aware of what the time element is involved in this appointment, if you should
Well,
you
we
go
told her
like
it's
that?
not much, but I'm retired and I can
Yeah,
spend it
yeah.
anytime that's needed.
She says by her standards, it's
She's
not
just
much.
trying to get you on.
Not a problem.
They're just.
Kathy's been serving on behalf of the board, on behalf of the town for quite some time now, and I appreciate all the work she does, and it's not as if she's going to then just drop everything.
No, but I am stepping down as the alternate so that Laurie, a resident of Halifax, can do that.
Oh.
So I'm still the board member for Plumpton. So you don't have to be a resident of the town you're representing. So for years, we tried, many people to try to get a representative from East Bridgewater with no luck at all. But I think the participation that we just recently received in Halifax and notifying the Board of Selectmen saying that I wanted to go over there. So Helen Corcoran is the third person I'd like to mention. She was the third to respond to a couple of my public requests for help, and she responded right away. She was willing to go over to an evening meeting for the East Bridgewater Selectmen and offer to be their representative. And that was a big help. They said, we'll appoint our health agent. So we finally have somebody from East Bridgewater. So I'm happy to mention Helen tonight and her offer.
Well,
Very
kudos.
good. Thank you all for volunteering. It's always hard to get volunteers, especially engaged volunteers.
So
Do they need to get signed in?
eventually, the board still needs to vote tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like, knowing Peter, I'm not sure I want to vote for him.
I'm asking you to please.
Kathy wants out. You didn't get the idea. Oh, I'll move Mr. Benito to be appointed to the board.
Second?
Is there a term?
It's an open term.
Open term, okay, that's even
Oh, we
better.
got him for
We
life.
got him forever, yeah. That's a theme that we've been pushing tonight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then also appoint,
Oh, yes, sorry, we didn't mean to forget you.
Laurie Monahan.
I would be happy to move that we appoint Laurie Monahan as the
Frenchman.
alternate.
Beg your pardon?
You're French, right?
Oh, yeah. Irish is king's king.
Can I get a second?
Second.
can I get a name?
Can I get an amen?
That's where I was going. I didn't know if everybody would pick up on it, but all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I was hoping nobody'd pick up on that.
Hey, we got culture here.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And I hope things will work well. Working with Kathy is going to be a thrill.
Pam,
I
you-
love her articles every week. I can't help it. I do.
So.
We'll get,
when do you?
Pammy's going to do some cards. We've got to sign them, and then you need to
Yeah.
be sworn in at the
And
town
I'll
clerk's.
send you a letter. I'll send you guys a letter in the mail, and then you can get sworn in the town clerk. Okay?
Meanwhile, you can start taking samples of the lake and we can check things out.
We just finished my Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Yeah, I noticed Eat Lake is closed down.
The testing for the cyanobacteria will continue for a while.
But at least, we got the results this week, they're back below 75, it doesn't
Yes.
open it up again, they're still fairly high, they're like in the 60s, but
Right.
if we get another week of under 75, we can open East Monpont again. West Monpont so far stays open.
We're supposed to get some relief starting Thursday, so.
Well, 'cause I know
Start
the
getting
school
better.
kids, the school kids want it open right away so they can go, play hooky.
They might anyway.
That's school tomorrow. There's a lot of unhappy children in
First
town
day of
tonight.
school starting tomorrow.
So is anybody here for anything else before the board, or?
Oh, please stay. We like the company.
Just want to make sure, we don't want to throw people out.
Did somebody bring coffee or a chessboard or?
This is Dave.
Oh, that's good. Oh, next time, popcorn, we'll have it ready
I
for
think Mia's may still be open, so.
Thank you very much.
you. Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
All right, thank you so much.
All right.
That's a mod.
I don't have anything else for the board,
I know.
No?
but I think that,
Oh, we still
We
have to
had
finish some
roll
signing,
You
but
guys, okay, you guys gotta sign your, you gotta sign that one at the, at the very top, all three of you.
by your names.
That's killing me.
That's what I just thought.
And then I'll get Kim's later.
Any road openings, any?
Yeah, we do, yeah. just-
yeah, I saw that earlier in the packet.
67 Home Street. And the stipulations, the letter that I send out now from the highway surveyor, I send this out with every road opening now. We'll do those in
Okay, I just didn't want you to forget.
and one detail officer, and that is at 67 Home Street.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I won't do them too fast, so I'll party up a little.
Hey, I get it, you guys want to sign?
Oh, you're such a pain.
No. Why, do you want to have to come back tomorrow?
No.
No, okay,
All right then.
all right.
I'll shut up.
As long as we're welcome.
Okay, so there's that, so we got that. And then we have a live entertainment permit for Salon Serenity. It's for her cudathon, but this year instead of doing breast cancer, she's going to do a cure for junior diabetes as her son was diagnosed with diabetes. So she's, same thing every year, parking it around, right there in the parking lot of the hair salon. And it's on the 15th of September and from 1 to 4.
Who's, are there any alcohol in it gonna be served?
Oh, no.
It's going to be much like the
Well,
other event
I
that
have
she
to ask the
hosted.
What
question.
do you do? No, it does, no, it's just a live entertainment, yeah.
Okay.
She does it every year. She, you know, the one right down there, right across from the
Yeah,
church.
I know
Yeah.
it is.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to have you sign. This, I think you signed one of them.
So, do we have a yay and a nay?
I move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, you need a signature on that one. That's the, okay. Now, recycle the payments. And you guys can do it. I printed them off the whole list, so they can just say,
So,
they could say bill numbers, like they could say like,
well, I would go with the list that we'll put on the record, the list will become part of the minutes.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And simply the list supplied by,
Yeah,
staff.
yeah, and then, and they're all for the, and the reason for them is the private call.
right.
And you vetted them all, right?
We have letters in each case from the private haulers.
Yeah, every single one, yeah.
And how many do we have?
101, or 102.
102, we just, we said, yeah, and of course, we sit the.
We still have another week.
Yeah, till the 5th, and whatever we get, and we'll go from there. Okay, so,
So if the board would vote to.
I would
approve the
vote
abatements.
that those people who asked for abatement for recycling fee
On the
as
list.
listed.
it's listed on the list, right, it's listed on.
Listed on the list of August 28th.
August 28th, be abated.
Second. Anybody's
All in
wondering.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just a reminder to our audience at home, the deadline for filing for the abatements is the same as the deadline for paying the recycling bill, which is September 5th. We need to have it in our hands by that date.
Earlier if possible.
You got anything else,
I
Pat?
think I'm all set. I'm all set.
Well, I move that we adjourn, if there's no further business to be taken up.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
I guess we're adjourned. You can stay. We still have 60 to sign, so that,